Hello, this is Christina Roberts-Enneking, and I am here to welcome you to the Real Eyes Realize podcast. This is a podcast that highlights everyday people making ripple effects, actualizing love in their families, communities, and our world at large. This podcast was created to amplify the voices of those who are creating change in our world with this inner knowing, this truth-telling that is deeply inspiring to listeners, so that together we can spread the good work of positive ripple effects throughout the world. Realize is a show where life and service can dance together. So we look forward to inviting you to take a listen, sit back, or take us with you on your walk or drive or however you enjoy your podcasts. But I invite you to listen deeply. We're here with our guests to hear about the sparks that have inspired action and heart-centered service, and truly highlight ways in which we can also be motivated and inspired to create positive ripple effects in our world. And we are prepared to get real. We're excited for you to hear these stories of vulnerability, courage, and empathy, and we want to know more about how we can see beauty through the eyes of these beautiful beholders. So look forward to hearing what your thoughts are. And again, welcome. Welcome to this wonderful next episode with our very special guest. Really want to, first of all, thank this blessed day that we have the opportunity to be here with, and how grateful I am that you, Chip, are sharing your time and you are here with us to help share some reflections and perspectives of your story and your talents and the things that spark what inspires you. When we look at this podcast, it was founded on individuals that are able to share the truth, the raw truth of what is going on in their world. And the real, as you know, stands for ripple effect, actualizing love. So let us be inspired by the story that is here to unfold, and may it light in us a lantern for a cause that really matters deeply to us and to the world as we forge forward. So today we value progress over perfection. We know that we are guided and protected on this journey of service and of love with our human family. And for the sake of our very precious short lives, may we be leaders who care. May we be leaders who mindfully act for the greater good for generations to come. And may we listen intently without the need to fill space with sound and seek to understand rather than postulate how to interject. So we ask our masters and our teachers and our guides and our guardians to help us as we guide through these lessons of living from our hearts and allowing the ripple effects of goodness, inspiration, hope, and courage to flow from our words into positive actions that will support our families, our communities, and this beautiful world we've been gifted to occupy. So we hear this call to express our beauty in the world. And Chip, I want to thank you again for being here for part 2 of this podcast. So do you want to do anything for grounding before we dive right in?
Thank you, Christina. It was amazing, our chat last time. It's great how just talking about these subjects, which are very close to my heart and in your heart as well, how it's, in a sense, this conversation changes my perspective after, because it kind of like reiterate and activate that part of me. So this conversation actually, in a sense, profoundly changed me as well. Thank you for that.
I love hearing that. And I love when we think about ripple effects, actualizing love, that nobody is a teacher or a student and that they stay that the whole time, right? We're always students. We're always looking at teaching in different ways. And so when something like a conversation can shift perspectives, can change the way that we think and where we prioritize putting our words, actions, and our love, that's a really cool thing. So I also learned so much from these conversations, and particularly from you the last time. So for our listeners, if you're just moving into understanding kind of what this conversation is today, we had Ciprian Rarau with us last month. And part of what that conversation was around just artificial intelligence. And here it is upon us. And what does that mean? And we were really offering some resources and some perspectives, as well as, I think, some healthy skepticism around that. What are the boundaries that we want to look? And so what we really identified is that conversation was just the tip of the iceberg. So today we want to move beyond the tip of the iceberg, but I want to give a brief introduction of Chip for those that may not know who you are. So Chip is a seasoned entrepreneur. He's a software engineer from roots in Romania, where he discovered a natural aptitude of engineering during his high school days. In 2004, he moved to Canada, and he has been always drawn by opportunities for innovation and entrepreneurship. And as a father of two and an entrepreneur at heart, Chip has founded two companies in Canada, and his latest venture is called Wisk.ai, and it's a software solution designed for the restaurant industry. He's the co-founder and the chief technology officer of Wisk, and he has successfully led the company to become venture-backed and profitable with a team of 20 employees. 4 years ago, coinciding with the COVID pandemic, Chip became deeply engaged in yoga and meditation, attending retreats and focusing on reconnecting with his body and his inner self. Influenced by so many thought leaders such as Eckhart Tolle, Alan Watts, Michael Singer, and Tara Brach, Chip has embraced practices that are centered around awareness and mindfulness. And he views the mind as a separate tool rather than the entirety of his being, shifting from a mental to a heart-centered living. So this journey, I'm so excited. We learned a little bit about your journey in the last call, but I know that you really love to tap into this sense of presence and fully experiencing life as it unfolds. So again, welcome back, Chip, and I'm excited to dive down deeper as we go underneath the iceberg around this AI dialogue. So the first question I'm going to ask you is, you just recently got back from a vacation with your family. You had a reunion with some high school individuals from Romania. You've been dipping into the sense of presence with others. So I'm just curious if you could reflect a little bit on kind of where you are in this space in your life now around valuing person to person relationships, and then how that balances out with your job of like bringing AI to life, particularly for the restaurant industry.
So taking a break, and like see them as really to make a separation between work and the rest, and being able to create this space where you have the you created this space where you let things appear. Now, in this case, I was very lucky because the way the vacation happened is that I actually met with my high school colleagues. I met with my brother, his wife. I went to this beautiful Canary Islands, so everything was there. I experienced not only vacation but also reconnecting with the people that I know. So from this perspective, the words are just not enough. Like you just being like a kind of like seeing a photo or being in the place, because there you experience everything with all the senses. So that is the magic of going in a vacation like this, but also disconnecting from the day to day. That is also crucial, because that means that you untie yourself from the previous reality, if you want, and then you go there fully immersed in this new reality with an open perspective without necessarily expecting anything. So that is basically, it's kind of like you see it as a retreat in a sense. It's not like the typical term of a retreat, but you can see it as a retreat.
That's awesome. So when you think about that, what I really love is this notion about you have this experience, this immersion experience with your family in a beautiful area, friends as well, where you're feeling all of your senses come to life. Can you explain a little bit more about what that means for you? You've talked a lot about embodiment. So what does that mean when your senses come to life at that deeper level?
Mm. Wow, it's, I mean, I wish, like in a sense, like, I mean, to stay in this state forever. It's kind of like the moment where you eat something and you really like it, and you are really sensing the food, and you're not thinking about anything else but the food that's in front of you. So now imagine being in nature, you don't see anything or you don't experience anything but the nature. Or you talk with a person that you like and you give the person the full attention without thinking or expecting anything in return from it. You're fully there. You're fully there and you're receiving whatever it is. Sometimes it might be, they go with the family, and sometimes there are discussion in the family. They are not necessarily, like inspiring or, but you just welcome it. You're just there in the moment and you say,
Yeah.
okay, what is this moment trying to teach me? Instead of like say, okay, oh, this is so beautiful, but it's that kind of. But of course, we're humans, right? So it's not always the case. But going in a vacation gives you higher chances of reaching, of really being present, and stopping the mind from working too much.
That's great. I think it's such a valuable thing, like you said, to just disconnect and find that there's another reality and that you get to really be part of that. And I love that notion that you talked about, what is this moment trying to teach me? To really be able to reflect at a different level where your mind is not so
Mm-hmm.
busy on all of the to-dos, right? All of the work tasks, all of the deliverables, all of the deadlines that might be coming upon us. So when you
Mm-hmm.
think about that, now what kind of to dovetail into generative AI, some of what we talked about last time, and maybe what we've also been looking at in the past month, because there's a lot that's already happened, is this
Yes.
notion that, whether or not you look at the metaverse or some of these different AI opportunities, is that it is actually meant to be more of an immersive environment to bring senses alive, to bring us closer together
Yeah.
so that we're not like on a phone trying to figure out, like where we're distracted from our family, but instead we're maybe in the same room or some other world.
Yes.
Can you talk to that a little bit more about how AI may be able to tap into that sense of presence?
Mm-hmm. I mean, wow. So if we think about just our conversation here, like the humans were able to pretty accurately transfer image, right, across. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
the quality is amazing. The sound as well. It's not as good as it would have been in real life. Like, I mean, but it's very close to the
yeah,
perfection. We can imagine that using the a VR, we'll be able to project the other person as to trick the brain to be exactly the same, to be
yeah,
like, I mean, with the latest VRs, it gets close. Now we could imagine a future that will have tactile as well. Like,
yeah,
imagine having gloves that will actually completely simulate the
yeah,
human connection. Now the smell is very difficult and to simulate, and
yeah,
also very difficult, like the movement.
mm,
um, but in a sense, if we can do that, it's like a matrix, right? I
yeah.
mean, it's scary from a perspective, but the human will be able to, if we can control all the five senses, the human's mind will not be able to distinction between virtual reality and reality.
Hmm.
That's both an interesting and a scary one. I mean, depending how you see it. But I mean, look, the sound and the image were almost perfect with it,
Yeah,
right? But the other ones, and once you can control all the five senses, you can create any reality you can imagine. Now, a friend of mine was, actually two of them were talking about, once the AGI will arrive and we can generate videos in real time based on brain sensory data, we can actually create the perfect movie for you in real time. And that's also even scarier from that perspective, because that means that we all have like our own dopamine hit at any point. There is no, you can create the perfect reality that you want. So it's kind of like sci-fi here what we're talking about, but what we have seen in the last couple of years with the AI, it's actually like it's it's possible that the humans will be able to reach that stage. So, but in the meantime, there's nothing wrong with reality, right? There's
yeah,
nothing. So that's just one of the things that Alan Watts was mentioning in one of the quotes that I really cherish, and I have it on my phone, is that it was saying that reality in itself is gorgeous. It's just no matter it says that is the fullest of total joy. In a sense, the reality that it is in front of our eyes, it doesn't have to necessarily to be different. We don't have to search for anything else. It's just, I mean, so now the question is asking ourselves to Christina, why? Let's imagine, why would we want to have a different reality? What is that's a question. Let's say we have a VR.
Yeah.
Now we can have a VR that will put us in a very positive, full of energy place, right?
Yep.
But would we want to be there in all the time? I mean, we'll get bored
Yeah.
for it, and we will get bored, right?
That's a
So
good question. And I like this is what I'm grappling with in my own mind too, thinking about and also having children. Um,
yeah,
what is the balance between going into an immersive environment, say VR, virtual reality, mixed reality? Is it, if the intention is to escape or to numb or to get the dopamine hits and play games that are violent, and I think that that's all reality, instead
yes,
of maybe going to be more present, maybe to visit some locations that I'm curious about, maybe to do a little tour of the Canary Islands if I haven't placed my feet on that sand, to kind of like
yes.
understand. Like, I think the intentionality is part of it. And especially having children, I see
Mm-hmm.
people that get lost in their phones, get lost in games. And I think, I don't know that that's going to be healthy in the long run, but I'm curious what your thoughts are, especially when you reflect upon having young children.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the crucial. Like, I mean, it's the intent. Whether you wanna go in an activity to numb yourself. It's really, if you have something lacking and you go into the VR to look for something. But if you already, let's say you're in a good spot, in a good place where you feel grounded, and then
Yeah.
you say, okay, let's experiment. Let's go in a
Yes.
different place. Let's something new. But I'm not going there to fill a gap or a void or something that's major in my life. I'm
Yeah.
just going there with an open perspective. Now that's a total different approach,
Yeah.
because so it's really from where are you coming from? That is the I think that the crucial point.
Yeah.
But even if we go on vacation, I guess it's the same. Even now, the normal vacation, even if you go in the city or you really travel a bit further away, the same question you're asking yourself: like, when I'm going there, am I going to fill a void?
Yep.
Am I happy because, or I'm looking happiness out there? So that is. I mean, but this happens. I mean, in not even travel, but like you say, gaming, because I see my kids. Now, luckily, when we went abroad and they didn't have internet connection, so
Right.
they had no choice but to be more present.
Exactly.
That
That was
was
the
that
same
was
with my
actually
son in
very,
Peru. It was like, no internet, like, have fun
yes,
surviving. You're going to be okay.
yeah, yes. They so that's actually positive. Um, yeah. So it's just disconnecting. Yeah,
Yeah.
from
So
from from
here's the
that.
question, though. Now, here's an interesting thing.
Hmm.
In our mode of disconnecting,
Hmm.
right? Like leaving our,
Hmm.
say, busy work life and going on vacation and disconnecting and being with family and those that we love, is that a form of escaping in a way? And so, how do we
Hmm.
translate that to the difference of being present with when we are in our work life and doing the things that
Hmm.
we love and enjoy and bringing our skills to full fruition? And then when we're with our family or friends, being fully present. Like, what is the difference when we talk about that and disconnection and how there can be joy on both sides?
Hmm. I guess in the same way that seasons, when you have winter and you have summer, and you have the spring and the autumn, I guess it's just the difference between them. So when you have a pause, you can see it as a winter. You just have a pause. The nature has a pause, right? And then you have summer where everything is vibrant. But in a sense, the human mind, I guess, needs both of them. You need action and you need rest. And it's only the action, only the rest that will tell you what action is. If you're fully in action all the time, you don't know what rest is because you're
Yeah.
just fully on all the time. So that I would say that the beauty is the conflict, is the difference. The bigger the delta is, in my perspective, like that's how I notice that I function. The more breaks I take, the more mental clarity and focus and
Yes.
creative I am after.
Yes.
So it's a contradiction in a sense because our society says work, 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 work. But what I'm saying is that what I notice on myself is that the bigger breaks I take, the more disconnected I am, the better it is after because of this summer winter. That's the best analogy that I
I
came up
love
with right
that.
now. That makes it puts them because you experience something else and now
Yeah.
you can fully go in knowing that you're going to get rest again. So kind of like when you know that you're going to get rest again, the body says, okay, I'm going to give you this extra push because I know that you're going to treat me well after. So I don't have to protect myself because
Yeah.
the body has its own. Yeah, makes.
I love
See what
that.
I mean?
Well, and I think you just tapped into something about seasons. And I love that analogy. I love, love, love it because I think what you're tapping into is nature. And when you think about our bodies, our minds, us as beings, we are part of
Hmm.
nature. We are integral to nature. So, what I'm hearing you say
Yes.
is this mirror of us with regards to modeling what nature's doing. And yes, there's time for rest, there's time for creativity, there's time for abundance, there's times for dying, there's times for birth. So, I'm
Hmm.
curious that when you look at that, even in the midst of the development, if you will, of AI, what is the cycle of AI? Like, are we at the birth? Are we at adolescence? Like, how do
Hmm.
you see the cycle happening and how could it model nature?
Mm. I mean, the whole AI, it's really mimicking human mind, right? The neurons and the way the learning happens. This is not the first time I've had extensive chats with friends of mine, and we're saying that in engineering we use nature as a as a guiding as a guide to understand if it work with nature, the human mind, we can apply those concepts in engineering in many ways. So connecting with nature in itself and learning from it. And the closer we are with nature, the more we can build around for humanity a society which actually benefits the human.
Yeah.
So we have only positive being in nature from
Mhm.
this perspective and really understanding it. And especially from because right now with the AI, what the humanity is trying to do, and it's pretty good at it, and it's actually becoming surprisingly well. We're trying to make the human mind scalable. We're
Mhm.
trying to get the human mind and see with the latest model, large language model that exists, it actually shows some sign of creativity, shows some sign that it can learn, and it will only get better. But the whole behind the scenes, it's really trying to get the human mind into a digital form in a sense.
Yeah. And I think when we look at that, so now when we take a look at nature, there's peace and serenity, there's also chaos and destruction. So when we think about scaling the human mind, especially in a technological platform, how do
Yeah.
we safeguard, if you will, ourselves, our children around minds that may want things for themselves or want to do things for harm versus minds that are
Hmm.
looking at solving things like global climate change or
Hmm.
health, really looking for cures to some health ailments that we
Hmm.
haven't been able to figure out yet. What is that
Yeah.
like?
Yeah.
What are the safeguards, do you think?
Now, one of the founders of OpenAI, I'm not sure if I pronounce his name correctly, Ilya Sutskever. He was mentioning about the safeguards that the AI could have. He says that he gave a parallel. 2 years ago, people were saying about large language models, that the LLMs on which
Yep.
OpenAI is built, that is going to have these limitations and these limitations. 2 years later, none of those predictions were actually true. So the fact is that people right now, based on what I read and what I sense, don't know what are the dangers and what are the safeguards and what are the limitations of the current technology.
Yeah.
So the industry right now is developing something that doesn't exist, and even those that developed it, the OpenAI co-founders, and the rest, because now there are like 3-4 companies actively developing with a massive amount of speed. They are surprised as well by how well and by the technology they're building. So putting safeguard railguards right now, it's not. We don't know yet what it is. So that is the difficulty, right?
Yep.
If you will know the problem ahead of time, then you will know what to do. Like kind of like let's take the the airplane industry, the aviation industry, right?
Yeah.
It's defined. You
Right.
know what are the rules and what kind of policies you have to put in place. But in the terms of AI right now, that's a of course, like some people that I talk with, some friends that they have a contradictory opinion with mine, that say that we should. The people say that if we don't know what the outcome should be, you should not be building it. We should not be building it in the first place, because why would you be nuts and crazy to build something that could potentially destroy the humanity? So why not like just not building it in the first place?
Yep.
Now the fact is that most companies, the humanity goes forward because we like progress,
Yeah.
and regardless, whatever, like somebody will build it just because it's possible. So that is the other side. So depending on how, let's say, risk adverse or is the person. But
Yeah.
right
I
now,
think
the
so.
fact is that we cannot stop this one. We cannot stop, and we don't know what's coming.
I
That is
think
the scary one.
that's kind of what my feeling and take is on that. And also, I mean, you're up in Vancouver, I'm living in Silicon Valley. I think the genie's out of the bottle. We've proven
Yeah.
now, and AI has been around for at least a decade, if not more. This isn't just
Yes.
happening.
Yeah.
It's just that the power of the large language models and the machine learning, we're seeing now the application. So when you
Yes.
think about that, so I think the genie's out of the bottle, the train's left the station. So now knowing that, I think you're right. Like we are designing things that there is no model for. We're creating the blueprints as we go. Is there, that thought with large, um, you know, just with this ability, like there's large responsibility that comes with
Mm-hmm.
this large ability to learn and create. So what is the responsibility, do you think, of leaders in this realm? And what do you see happening? Because I know you've been talking to a lot of leaders and you have an
Mm-hmm.
AI company. What are your thoughts on that to kind of mitigate the bad actors, if you will? Or do we want to do that? Is that just part of nature?
Mm-hmm. So right now, the effects of AI, they start to be consumer. We actually, the consumers, they actually see them, and I'm surprised when I saw, I even to my friends, what some of them are in IT or or related to IT, they are surprised by what I show them. It's not yet mainstream. If the fact is not yet mainstream, fully mainstream, that means that it didn't reach the politics yet. It didn't reach the governments. It didn't reach those that are in power to make big changes in the society. So that is one. The other one is the AI you consider as a political tool. If United States doesn't do it, the China will do it, right? So then you say the United States doesn't want to be behind, or the Europe, or the, let's say, the Western society. So they cannot stop, even though they wish, because of the political military reasons. So these points, but what I think it will happen, and Ilya from OpenAI, he actually left OpenAI a few weeks ago, recently, because of the safety reasons. He thought that the way OpenAI is handling the safety, it's not good enough. So yeah, so it's a big subject of discussion, a big subject of discussion, and I'm very, very curious what will happen. And Ilya was mentioning as well that we reach a point where the AI and large language model and whatever will come will be able to do. It's not a question of if, is when it will happen. It will be better at human at almost any task. So now once we get close to that point, I guess the governments will wake up, and those in power will put the safety, will create the environment. But right now we're not there yet. And it's kind of like look at the way we handle the climate crisis. It's only when we see we knew it was clear signs 20, 30 years ago, right?
Right.
But it's only when you start seeing disasters all around the world that people start waking up. But the thing is that with climate change, when you start seeing disaster, it's kind of late. You're late in the game. You should have done it ahead of time. But the AI, you can see it in the same way. It's only when you see the effects. And because if you say, like, let's say, for example, the self-driving cars are fully coming in, can you imagine
Yep.
how many tens of millions of people will lose jobs? It's mind-bending. Now, people might say, yes, but those people will do something else. Yeah, but it just happens that millions of people will lose jobs very quickly. When
Yeah.
will they have time to find something else to work on, right?
Yeah.
So it's I mean, I don't have the answers, but I mean, I know
Huh?
this will happen.
Yeah.
I know
Well,
this
it's
will happen. I
interesting.
can,
We were recently in San Francisco last weekend, bringing some visitors from
Mhm,
Europe around to go see Alcatraz and farmers, Fisherman's Market, or Fisherman's Wharf,
mhm,
and
mhm.
everything. And there were Waymo cars self-driving all over, that were there as
Yeah,
Ubers.
yeah.
And obviously, we
Mhm,
are seeing it's a disruption of industries. And what was interesting is there were a couple of them that were parked, and there were people passing through that were not exactly following, like whether or not it was red or green in terms of the lights. And so the car was just
mhm,
stopped, and it was just stopped there forever. And so it was like they also don't have, the human in the car to make decisions about when it's time to maybe like go forward if you need to inch your way. So there were a lot of people that were kind of laughing, I would say, and trying to trick the car. And so if we do
Yes.
see a bunch of
Yeah.
robots out on the streets and we see these self-driving cars, I wonder what humans are going to do, especially if they're feeling
Yes.
threatened. It could be an interesting uproar, if you will. I want to
That
switch
is a
gears for a moment.
go ahead.
Yeah. So we have talked in the past, and it was like way in the past when we were talking more spirituality and on retreat, about instructions for life. And I shared with you some of what the Dalai Lama has put out, His Holiness,
Yeah.
around instructions for life. And we can put this out on our resource guide for people to review it. I'm going to read through
Mhm.
them as quickly as I can, but also I'm curious, as you think through these, maybe we can tag into some of these and then think, what are the instructions for life as we move forward, partnering with technology? Is there something that comes through? So, number
Yes,
one is take into account that great love and great achievements involve great risk. Number two, when you lose, don't lose the lesson. Three, follow the three R's: respect for self, respect for others, and responsibility for all your actions. Four, remember that not getting what you want is sometimes a wonderful stroke of luck. Five, learn the rules so you know how to break them properly. Six, don't let a little dispute injure a great friendship. Seven, when you realize you've made a mistake, take immediate steps to correct it. Eight, spend some time alone every day. Nine, open your arms to change, but don't let go of your values. 10, remember that silence is sometimes the best answer. 11, live a good, honorable life that when you get older and think back, you'll be able to enjoy it a second time. 12, a loving atmosphere in your home is the foundation for your life. 13, in disagreements with loved ones, deal only with the current situation. Don't bring up the past. 14,
Mm-hmm.
share your knowledge. It is a way to achieve immortality. 15, be gentle with the earth. 16, once a year, go someplace you've never been before. 17, remember that the best relationship is one in which your love for each other exceeds your need for each other. 18, judge your success by what you had to give up in order to get it. And the final one, number 19, approach love and cooking with reckless abandon.
Mm-hmm.
So when you hear those, what comes up for you, Chip, and what reflections would you have on what to double click on and double down emphasis on, or what modifications do you think might be upon us?
Mm-hmm. I mean, the first one that comes when I listen to this, it's about the decision between my needs, let's say talk about myself, and the people around. It's kind of like the way I see it is you go in a forest and you are very careful every step you're making. So but at the same time, you appreciate the forest, you appreciate the life, and also like everything that's there. And you want to make sure that you are there in full appreciation of what's in front of you. Now, and you really appreciate it for what it is, but you're still in the forest. You still decided to get there, right? You're not outside. Life is like this. You are inside life, and no matter what happens, is like the fact that we exist. We're going to change the environment in which we are, right? So now it's a guide. Okay, we are in life. What can we do so my needs, let's say I'm talking about myself personally, and those around, we live in harmony. And those around might be humans, might be plants, might be the earth, might be anything that you can find. And let's find this equilibrium where the tension that needs to arise is the normal tension. We don't add unnecessary tension, right? It's yeah. So that's what comes to me when it's this issue between our body, which in a sense we are part of nature as well, um, and the outside environment. It's kind of like that's what counts.
I love that. There's a couple things too, like that you, and this is really tying back to the early part of our conversation around disconnecting, but also how great it is to do that so that there's a contrast between action and
Mm-hmm.
inaction. And I wonder if it is in that contrast and that living of being in full attention where we are, which talks about the gratitude, the appreciation, the
Mm-hmm.
presence, and at the same time, dealing with what's in front of you. So, not adding more drama, not adding more exacerbation to things. So, we can just deal with things as they are. And if those get to be some of our guideposts as we continue to move forward. So, the responsibility is on us to identify, how do I deregulate? How do I know when I'm in fear and acting out on fear
Mm-hmm.
versus acting out on conscious next steps? And I'm wondering if those give us an ability to kind of think about that, even if technology is something that is going to be changing industries, maybe disrupting, but
Mm-hmm.
also creating new. So, how do we look at adaptability as a key skill set? What do you
Mm-hmm.
think?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's knowing ourselves and understanding, like say talking about myself, understanding my emotions and how do I react in certain situation. It's really it's a I guess it's a path of self-knowledge, introspection towards the person, but towards myself. I'm talking about myself. And then once I know myself, then going out, then first because I connect myself, I could be able to connect with the people that I'm talking to, and then be able to have like a deeper connection. So I guess the work, the real work, it's internal first. That's how what comes to me first. And once, if this work is being done, and it's you surface all the things that you should have surfaced before, so that means that you come like an open open person. You dealt with your stuff. I'm not going to go outside and project my own fears, my own needs, my own things on the people around. That means that I'm in a place of equilibrium, going out, that is the best situation to be in. That means that you will be fully open to receive what is, without rejecting or filtering out.
Love that. I love that. And so, as we kind of close out this conversation, how do we teach that? How do we foster that? How do we promote that, especially given that you're a parent? When you think about for your children, what do we
Yeah.
do to kind of like help people along that path, knowing that it's a self journey, right? We know that, and people are going to come into their own
Yes.
realizations in their own time. But is there anything that you have as a blueprint, given that you're a parent, that can help?
Yes. That's it. I've been asking this question constantly.
Yep.
If I see something and I experience something, how do I pass that message across? Or if somebody experiences something, how do they pass this message across to me? That is a fundamental question in our species communication. I mean, we have words. We know that written text is not enough. We know that if somebody hears the voice of a person, it's already better, because the voice, we are so equipped to do this one. If you see the person, it's like, is the next level. If you can hug the person, is the next level. If you can spend with the person a few hours, a day, a week, that's the next level, right? Because we communicate through things that we cannot perceive, really. So now what you're asking here, I guess, if you really wanna, you wanna, my headphones stopped. If you really wanna pass a message, I guess you just need patience
Mm.
and be there with the person, not necessarily trying to listen and
Mhm.
sit together. We talk about parenting, right? If you want to make a change in your kids behavior, you have to change yourself first, because pretty sure that they are mimicking something that you did. So no matter how much you tried, you're not just going to make them do exactly the same again. So you have to. So, but it's a tough question. What I would love to do is, like, as a technologist, to develop a technology or something that will streamline the communication, like we're doing right now, because
Yeah.
this is what Riverside and all the messaging system allows us to communicate way better,
Yes.
almost instantaneously, with anybody that we want in the world. But it's still, we can only communicate. We can communicate, but we cannot communicate emotions very easily. So that is, and we cannot communicate way of life very easily.
Mm.
It's that one, because that one, it takes longer period of time, right? How can you explain to somebody, you went on a 3 days retreat in the woods? How can you explain what you felt?
Right.
It's
It's tricky.
sometimes words are not enough, right? So that is so. Christina, I have the same question. I have
Yeah.
same question here, and I wish we'll find an answer, because if we find the answer, that means maybe we'll find that everybody around us is kind and we are the same, right? That we will not have adversaries, because we'll be able to connect very quickly at a deeper level. We'll stop
Yeah.
from being black and white, red and blue, and yeah.
I love that. I love that so much. And I think the thing that I'm kind of keying in on is that time is a wonderful friend. It can be something that patience as a value is really incredibly important. Our own generosity and our kindness, having things take time, and acceptance, giving people the benefit of the doubt, working through challenges, knowing that life is going to have challenges, doing so as
Yes.
honestly as we can. Like, that gets back into
Hmm.
that value that the Dalai Lama says is, open your arms to change, but don't let go of your values. I think if we can identify the key values that can help us as a compass
Hmm.
through this time of great change, then that will support the journey in a much deeper level.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So with that, my friend, I know last time we ended with some collective questions, so I'm going to do just a couple of them rapid fire because maybe
Okay,
things have shifted
go
for
ahead.
you, and then we'll close off this
Yes.
podcast. But I just first of all wanted to say how grateful I am for giving us time again to be able to dive in deeper and kind of get underneath what we talked about before. And I love always hearing about just your thoughts, your ideas, your hopes, your family, and what it is that might be possible. So, with that, I'm curious now that you're back from vacation, what are you diving back into in terms of your interests?
I've been first one, the app Waking Up by Sam Harris, which I discovered, and I subscribe myself to his podcast. Uh, it's like it's full of resources um, in terms of like way of living, finding this inner peace, but it's also in terms of like talking about how the mind works. So it's science applied to find this inner peace, meditation, and finding that good spot that we're talking about. So it's because we have this in our mind. We have the rational mind, right? It's a person that can talk both languages. That's what I mean. You talk science, but you can talk mystics, right? And
Awesome.
then you see how those two can. So that's for me is listening to Sam Harris, and all the people that he recommends, and he actually recommended a book that I read over the vacation, The Death of Ivan Ilyich, which is from Leo Tolstoy. It's the book was written in 1886, and it's so valid today.
Isn't that wild?
It's so valid. It's about the main character Ivan Ilyich is a high-ranking judge in the 19th century Russia. Um,
Sure.
he is who is living a life that's considered successful, but is all falling apart when he has a terminal disease, and he realized that he neglected all the human connections through his whole life. So it's super
Fascinating.
like I mean it's fascinating.
Isn't that
So
wild?
that's basically what I'm driving in right now. Apart from all
I
the technology aspect. Go ahead.
Yes, I love that. I love that. And I love that you are continuing to hone in on the balance, the contrast. And so, waking up with Sam Harris, I know I've been recently reading The Gutenberg Galaxy by Marshall McLuhan,
Mhm.
who actually was a Canadian philosopher back in the 60s that predicted literally all of the technologies, including with where we are today. And I'm finding it just so wild to be looking at these early pioneers. And then, like, now,
Mhm.
this is a reality. I think this is an amazing time to be alive, an amazing time. And
Mhm.
so for us to navigate it also has some amazing challenges, but it really is
Yeah.
phenomenal. Okay, next question. When you think about with great power comes great responsibility, what is it that you want to be remembering as you go into daily practices?
So let's see. I'm not sure I understand the question.
So if you think about with great
Asking again.
power comes great responsibility, what do you
Yeah.
feel is what you would like to be responsible or accountable to on a daily basis?
First, like I mean, thinking about the greatest role that I have is it's a father of a family. So that one alone, knowing that my wife and my two kids and we live together, and all the influence knowingly and unknowingly that I have with them, that is a pretty great responsibility that I sometimes I'm not even aware of. So that alone, knowing that my values and my way of living is being and their values are being we changed, so that is a great responsibility. Now that is first. The second one is the technology aspect, because given I live in a technology world, it's highly scalable. That means that any bits that move and they replicate, like I mean, light speed. So that is there is a great responsibility that I have. So like, how can I better use my knowledge to do good in the world? So that is I would say the second one.
I love that. And I I'm so happy that you are in the tech space because I know how mindful you are and how much you care. So really, really wonderful to know that. Very last and final question, and this is how we ended it the last time. What are you grateful for today?
Hmm. I'm grateful for having the option, the chance that I had to go on a vacation and to come back to a beautiful, like I mean, beautiful house, beautiful environment, like a healthy family, where just things just fall into place, and just being back to the normal life, but by think differently at the same time. That is my grateful moment today.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I am grateful for you, dear friend. Thank you. Thank you for being part of this podcast today. Much love and care to your family.
Thank you, Christina.
Thank you for tuning in to another impactful conversation here on the Real Eyes, Realize podcast. We hope you take some time to let the wisdom of these stories that are shared here today sink in, and we welcome you to engage with us on our social channels, realize.love on Instagram or Facebook. We also have links in our show notes to our guests, and we invite you to visit our website, realize.love. Here you will find an online resource hub, and this is where we offer gifts from our guests to all of our listeners. These resources can help all of us create our own positive ripple effects, actualizing love in this world. If you have any other individuals you would like us to interview, please do let us know. We love hearing your ideas for compelling stories to share. Thank you for listening, thank you for being here, and thank you for doing all that you do in the name of love and service in our world. Be true, be bold, be real, and thank you for listening.